Are the Edmonton Oilers back in this thing? They did find a way past Sergei Bobrovsky, which means there might be some hope yet. I'm going to talk Game 4 and more, but first, we are actually not too far away from 1,000 subscribers for Oilers Digest, so if you like what you see, please contribute towards that goal from us and hit that subscribe button. Okay, well, where else to start but with the game itself? And one of the things I said after Game 3 wasn't that Stuart Skinner was playing bad or that he was necessarily at fault for much in this series, but rather that when Edmonton just really needed a save, it didn't really seem like Stuart Skinner was answering the bell in those situations. The puck often ended up in the back of the net when Edmonton just really needed to keep the puck out of it. And, you know, imagine the difference in this game if Skinner doesn't make this save right off the hop. Imagine the difference in this game if that puck goes in to make it 1-0 Florida just 3 minutes in. That's a timely save from Stuart Skinner. Instead, the play goes on. Carter Verhaeghe's going to make a bad pinch, and then back the other way, Connor Brown and Matthias Janmark break, scoring. Eventually, Janmark in the crease make that to score the shorthanded goal to make it 1-0. And, you know, obviously knowing how the game ends, it might be easy to say that that sequence doesn't make a huge difference, but the momentum a team gets from scoring a shorthanded goal is big, and probably more importantly, the momentum a team loses from getting scored on in that situation early in that game is really significant, and it gave the Oilers life, and from there, Edmonton would strike off the rush again, and yet again, Matthias Janmark's involved. He does really well here to get around Antoine Lundell, and Adam Henrique, it's Henrique in front that's going to beat Lundell to that puck, get his stick on it to put it in the back of the net to make it 2-0. If Florida wouldn't get one back, it was Vladimir Tarasenko tipping in Gus Forsling's point shot that cut the lead in half, and Florida came very damn close to tying the game again, and yet again it was another very timely save from Stuart Skinner coming across to deny Verhaeghe. It's a great save, yes, but more importantly, if that goes in, it would have been 2 goals in 40 seconds for the Florida Panthers to erase the 2-0 Oilers lead and tie things up. And you want to talk about momentum, that would have entirely put the momentum in the hands of the Florida Panthers, and instead, a couple minutes later, Edmonton get to extend the lead to 3-1. And if you'll remember my video earlier this week after the Game 3, I said they should try Dylan Holloway in the top 6, and sure enough, he's the man to put the Oilers back up by 2 goals, and he did so in really dazzling fashion. He takes this pass from Leon Draisaitl, and it's one motion to pull the puck from behind him and then onto his backhand before tucking it home beyond Bobrovsky. And obviously, Oilers fans have been waiting for this from Holloway, and with Edmonton's depth scoring being a constant question mark, Holloway producing at a decent rate for the rest of this series would be really good for the Oilers, no matter if this series goes one more game or 3 more games. And following the Holloway goal, Connor McDavid finally scored his first Stanley Cup final goal early in the second period, and he did so in style as well. It's a great shot over Sergei Bobrovsky's shoulder to make it 4-1, and Edmonton would then chase Bobrovsky with their 5th, and for all the criticism that Darnell Nurse has faced throughout this series, and largely dating back farther in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it must have felt good for him to put one in the back of the net, making it 5-1. And speaking of getting the monkey off the back, Edmonton wasn't done, and it was their power play that finally found one. It was a 5-on-3, mind you, but it counts all the same, and it's some really nice passing off the rush for the Oilers that leads to Holloway's 2nd of the night. That made it 7-1, and Edmonton, again, this is the best of the Oilers. It's the team that can score at will. It's a team that, you know, defensively, they are going to do enough. The defense, the collapsing, the getting in the shooting lanes, they managed to really hold Florida to not a lot in this game, and even when Florida did get the scoring chances, that's where Stuart Skinner answered the bell. Ryan McLeod would then hammer home his 3rd of the playoffs to make it 8-1 Oilers. And so obviously you take this game in isolation, and I'm gonna say here right now, there are nothing but positives for me to report, because seriously, what's there that needed to improve that the Oilers didn't improve on in Game 4? The Stars needed to produce, right? Well, I'd say a combined 10 points from Edmonton's 5 top players would have checked that box. We needed Stuart Skinner to rise to the occasion. Well, I talked about the timely nature of his saves, but it was the volume of them as well. He finished with 32 saves on 33 shots. Edmonton's depth scoring has constantly been asked to do more throughout not just the regular season, but the playoffs. Well, you saw this Oilers team, and yeah, they scored 8 goals, but 11 of 12 forwards earned points, and 4 of 6 defensemen earned points. So again, I'd say that's a box checked, and the key here is simple moving forward, and that's to keep it going moving forward. At the end of the day, Edmonton could have won 2-1 or 8-1, and they'd still be facing down another elimination game on Tuesday. And it's obviously very reassuring they won in such dominant fashion. It's going to instill some confidence in the Oilers, and it's probably going to instill a little bit of doubt into the Panthers. But the goals they scored yesterday aren't going to carry over. At the end of the day, the Oilers have to go to Florida and win another game on Tuesday. Big picture, yeah, now they have to win 3 games instead of 4. But as was the case going into yesterday, they've just got to be looking at the next game as just another game they've got to win. You heard Knoblauch post-game. The Oilers feel they could have won 3 of the 4 games so far. They know why they're down 3-1, and they went to great lengths to remedy those problems in Game 4. There's no reason not to have some hope, but Edmonton's been the better team in the series more often than not, and the Panthers are still up 3-1, so that means that realistically, Edmonton could play as well as they possibly could in Game 5, and the Panthers could still close out the series. So, like I said, Tuesday's a game that the Oilers have to win. Simple as that. I just wanted to give a quick update outside of the Stanley Cup final because Oilers forward Leon Draisaitl is officially eligible to sign a contract extension come July 1st. Now, Peter Chiarelli definitely didn't do a lot right in Edmonton, but it had to be said that this Draisaitl contract has been a bargain. For $8.5 million, Draisaitl's not only been arguably the second best player in the world, but he's had 3 50-goal seasons, 5 100-point seasons, and 91 points in 58 playoff games during this contract. And that said, he's got to be due for a massive raise. NHL insider Frank Seravalli was on Oilers Now with Bob Stauffer on Thursday night and reported that he believes the Oilers have already begun the discussions to extend Leon Draisaitl, and Stauffer added that he believes the Oilers would be looking to go long-term with Draisaitl, which of course stands to reason. Seravalli added 2 other pretty interesting opinions, stating first that he believes there's about a 90% chance that Draisaitl and McDavid are going to stay in Edmonton long-term, before projecting not just Draisaitl's contract, but rather his expectation that in a few years' time, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard will cost Edmonton collectively $40 million a season. Obviously projecting that between the 3 players, whether you want to split it up, 15 each for Draisaitl and McDavid, then 10 for Bouchard, doesn't matter. Whatever the case may be, Edmonton locking up Draisaitl will obviously be priority 1. This is going to be a pretty big deal moving into the offseason. Just in the NHL, 8 days ago, we got the report that the NHL salary cap is going to rise up to $88 million next season. That's a $4.5 million increase from this season's salary cap, and that's the most it's risen since it went up this same amount between 2017-18 and 2018-19. And, again, I'll draw a comparable to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have struggled to build a good team around that group of superstars, largely because that group of superstars takes up too much of their salary cap. Now you look at the Edmonton Oilers and you're kind of looking down what Frank Seravalli's report is saying, and it's a pretty daunting prospect to think that 3 of the Oilers players are going to make $40 million. But this salary cap is supposed to continue to rise, and these contracts that McDavid and Draisaitl are going to sign are going to represent a lower percentage of the salary cap as the salary cap continues to go up. And honestly, as the NHL's revenue continues, you might even see this trend continue into free agency, where NHL teams are more likely to throw money at free agents with the expectation that the salary cap is going to rise moving forward. And so as the Draisaitl contract negotiations take place and potentially a Draisaitl contract extension is announced, I'd love to just implore you to continue to consider that the NHL salary cap will keep rising moving forward, and potentially a huge number going Leon Draisaitl's way won't have as much of an impact on the Edmonton Oilers salary cap at the end of the deal as it might at the beginning of the contract. Like I said, we're really close to our 1,000 subscriber mark, and I wanted to thank everybody for the support on this channel. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers run to the Stanley Cup Final has been a fun ride, and we just got to cross our fingers that it's going to continue to go as long as it can. Help us out with that 1,000 subscriber goal if you want, and happy Father's Day, everybody.